We're just at Gdańsk, Clowny, waiting on our train to Warsaw. It's quite busy, but I think a lot of these people are waiting for the Pendolino, which is the super fast train to Warsaw. We're taking the more scenic route. I'll try and catch it as it comes. Here we are on the train to, where are we going? Warsaw. Nice little cabin to ourselves. It's got a few stops. I don't know how long that'll last. Lovely. It's about, what was it, about 4 hours? Okay, so we'll be there for lunch.
Such as it is.
An hour south of Gdańsk on the way to Warsaw. It's just so lush and green. Canola fields in the distance. It's beautiful. Here we are crossing the Vistula River in Warsaw. That might be the church with Chopin's heart in it.
It's a church.
Nothing? That's very disappointing. Very disappointing indeed. So here's the story. So we're going to go in and have a look, despite being disappointed by the bench. So we're heading towards Church of the Holy Cross, where we'll find Chopin's heart in a column or in an urn. I've heard two different stories. When his sister, he died in France, but he wanted his heart to come back to Poland. So his sister brought it back. So she had the huge 16th, 17th century skirts. She put the heart in a steel container and soaked it in a really good quality brandy. And brought it back here. And they unearthed the heart to bring it across all the borders and things. And they unearthed the heart some years later, fairly recently actually, and found it to be in perfect condition. So it just shows that good cognac is good for your heart. The other story of note about this church is this church pretty much got flattened during the war. But this statue we see of JC pointing fell to the ground. And the photo, and this here, means hope is strength, something along those lines. And his statue was found here on the ground, pointing at the sign. So that is seen as the Warsaw Miracle. So this church is magnificent. And all we have to do is find the column with the bust of Chopin. So here we see, moving over to the left, the heart of Chopin is inside this column. I'll get a better view. Here we see. Fine piece of Soviet architecture, Stalinist Palace of Culture here in Warsaw. Quite a building. So the question is, did Hard Rock purposefully build this here? Perfect statement of political differences. Certainly a standout. So we've got the Theatre for Drama and the Museum of on the other side, and the Museum of Technology here. And over there seems to be some kind of bunker with an entrance. Town Square with its Stalinist housing. Palatial Stalinist housing. Chopin Square once the centre of the Jewish ghetto now no longer exists. University of Warsaw, completed in the 1800s when Poland was under Russian rule, so had to be permission from Tsar Alexander I. So 5 faculties and quite a beautiful building. There are now 25 faculties and 37,000 students. Presidential palace now. It wasn't always. It was a hotel. It was during the war and casino. That's how it survived the war because the Germans used it, so it didn't destroy it. Prior to that, it belonged to different noble families. So Napoleon Bonaparte stayed here. Tsar Alexander I has stayed here. It's currently guarded by. Can't really get them in shot. Heading into the old town now. Quite pretty. A lot of these buildings were either rebuilt in the classic style or bits and pieces of them remained.
The city was rejigged because to make it better to get around in.
Yeah.
So some of the
Okay. Yeah.
aren't in the same place.
Okay.
More.
Oh wow. So this is the institute where Curie, Marie Zelensky started off before she went over to the Sorbonne and met Pierre Curie. She actually said she was Polish, very proudly Polish, because apart from the Nobel Prize for work with radium, she also got a chemistry Nobel Prize for discovering radium, the elements, and a second element that she named polonium. Very pretty here. It's, as you said, rebuilt, not necessarily in the order and the place that the buildings were. Looking down across the newer city towards the National Stadium. Can't really see in the haze, but it's red and white, unsurprisingly. An example of sgraffito. Looks like it's painted on, but it's actually plastered and chipped off. A lot of colour here in the market square, and the houses are coloured differently to identify them, because this, of course, was before the time of addresses. There's also no church in this market square, and that's because it's a relatively small one, the square. And of course the market traders would have fish and meat and all sorts, and it was offensive to allow the smell of fish and rotting flesh into the church, so it's built a little bit down another alleyway. Well, this Old Town Market Square is simply gorgeous. Thinking about a beer, couldn't think of anything better to do. People just sitting, chilling, statue in the middle. Apparently these houses aren't really lived in. Downstairs they're more maybe restaurants, cultural centres, and then people don't like living here because there's nowhere near supermarkets, schools, that sort of thing. So they rent out for Airbnbs. People like us come and stay in them. So 1370 was the original build, 1956, the reconstruction. It's just incredible build that's been going on. So all of these celebrities here, we're in the Bristol Hotel, thought to be the most luxurious hotel in Poland and possibly Europe. And so we see Jackie Onassis, Margaret Thatcher, Queen Elizabeth II. And interestingly, we just Claudia Schiffer, Naomi Campbell. And interestingly, we sat down to have lunch, but the kitchen isn't working. And not only that, apparently, according to the waitress, there isn't a working toilet. Really? In the Bristol hotel? We found that a little surprising. But hey ho, we're moving on to find somewhere that has both a kitchen and a toilet, as you would expect in any reasonable establishment. So I'll show it to you. Built in 1901. You can pay between $300 and $8,000 for a room here. And let's hope that the rooms have toilets. Do you think the rooms have toilets? Or do you think it's like when we're out in our caravan? Or even our caravan has a working toilet, actually. Anyway.
What?